And we're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Human Echoes podcast. We're doing all kinds of weird stuff today. First and foremost, this is going out live, we hope, to you for the first time ever. Well, we're live. We're live lots of times, but not with the podcast generally. And we are bringing you a 0.5 special episode of the new movie that just hit theaters, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, based on the book by the same name. Mashing together your favorite romance from the 1800s with your favorite monster from the 20th century. Tony is here with me today. What did you think of this movie, Tony?
I was actually, I didn't even see a trailer for this. I went in completely blind, and I was blown away by how awesome and fun it was for me. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but seriously, I had so much fun watching this movie. And it was better done than I thought it was going to be. The action was better, the shots were better, the costumes were better. Everything about this movie was just perfect for what it was. And I was really excited whenever I got in there. You're just seeing these hot women from it's not Tudor period. It's I'm not sure what this is. It's late 1800s.
Yeah, don't try to get all knowledgeable here. This is beyond. That's beyond our depth.
Yeah, this is pre-Elizabethan. No, it's Victorian era, basically. Victorian England.
Yes.
But
what
anyway.
He said.
So it's in that time period. You've got the zombies coming in. You've got these just beautiful girls that are taught in the Chinese martial arts on how to defend themselves against zombies. All the other snooty people did the Japanese arts because they could afford to. And it's just really interesting, just the way they just kind of kick it off. What did you think about it?
I really liked the balance there because you said it right off the bat. It feels like a real period piece that basically takes all of those tropes that you've seen already. If you've seen any Pride and Prejudice adaptation that's set in that time, it looks like that. All the dresses are there like that. All the parties are there like that. All of the houses are the giant old manors and everything. And then they just, for the most of the movie, they just sprinkle in the zombie stuff in a way that fits in pretty well with the story. It feels a little bit funny and a little bit cheesy, but it's not played as a comedy for the most part. It's really, it's Pride and Prejudice. At this movie's best anyway, it is Pride and Prejudice with zombies sprinkled in. And while that seems like a ridiculous combination, the Pride and Prejudice part is so strong. And then the way the zombies are worked in, I loved, especially there were at least 2 times in this movie where you have people arguing with each other and it's juxtaposed with an actual fight. So you have them using this sort of high, flowery Jane Austen type language. She wasn't really high and flowery. She actually could craft a really great turn of phrase. But you have these people trading barbs like nobody's business, going back and forth, yelling it, and also fighting. And that, I don't know, those scenes for me were maybe my favorite things in the movie. The sisters argue early on, and they're training between themselves, and so they're having big martial arts thing. And then later on, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy have this big fight in this room, and also they're fighting at the same time, and it kind of gets sexy with the fight. Both of those things, I think, are the perfect encapsulation of what works about this movie when it is working.
Oh, it just kind of enhanced the tension that was growing there. That would have been way better than just them shouting, especially for the tone of this movie.
Well, and to be fair, again, all props to Jane Austen. If you watch some of those old Jane Austen specials, it is fun to listen to these people zing each other back and forth, especially Mr. Bennet. Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Bennet. In the old BBC, I believe it is the miniseries, they are hilarious. He just is full of all these great one-liners that he got a few of. He really did have a great moment when he says to her, if you accept this proposal, your mother will never speak to you again. Or no, if you refuse this proposal, your mother will never speak to you again. But if you accept it, I will never speak to you again. And I was like, yes, go Mr. Bennet, you're the man.
And Mr. Bennet was played by the same actor who played Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones, so that he can definitely deliver a barb if he wants to.
He can. It was nice to see him in a more jovial way as well, which you always got the in Game of Thrones that he had that as an act. You know, the actor brought that to the character a little bit, that he had some humanity. But this is him just really being a good father, which he was not in Game of Thrones. Doing, and it's interesting because they keep all the stuff about you got to marry because we're poor, and if you don't end up marrying, you're going to be out on the street, and
you're going to be a spinster.
Right, and that was a real thing that people actually had to deal with. I mean, they couldn't go get a job. They couldn't. Maybe they could. It would
be like sweeping a shop or something like that.
Right, so the prospects for these women were so limited, and it's easy to look at it now and be like, why are they so worried about being married? Because that is literally their only chance to better themselves in any way. And Elizabeth still takes a stand of like, nah, I'm marrying for love, which in our day and age, again, seems, of course you're going to marry for love. But back then it was like, you know, what if you marry somebody who's poor and you end up with a crappy situation? My favorite thing about this movie, though, by far, the shining example, and this is a pretty good movie overall, but Matt Smith, every time he is on screen, made me laugh.
The dandy preacher.
So good. This is not a comedy per se. It's taking itself seriously enough where you're having fun with it, but you're not rolling your eyes for the most part. But when he's on screen, his character, and he's sort of like that in the novel too, is just so much fun and so ridiculous and foppish and the opposite of anything Mrs. Bennett wants, or Miss Bennett, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. That he's just, I don't know. He was a real joy to have on screen, and I was sitting there in the theater and kind of not sure how I felt. I was tired that day, and I was a little bit, you know, I had to leave the kids and the wife on a Thursday night, and I was kind of tired, and I was like sitting there by myself, like, all right, what do we got? And it wasn't until he came on screen that I was really buying into the movie. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the other stuff in the movie, but he was the one thing that really tipped me over into winning over in this movie.
And I could definitely agree with that. Like, I was kind of sold kind of right off the bat with the way the movie opened. Just even the first ball and everything, whenever you first see the four girls going in and fighting the way they were doing it. Because
that was a ton of fun. They showed that sequence in the trailer a little bit, and it's extended in the movie. It's just, maybe it's sexist of me to enjoy the idea of pretty ladies in their nice dresses with swords kicking butt and killing zombies, but then I'm a sexist because I totally enjoyed every minute of that. And the suiting up sequence that they do where they're like throwing the knives in their garters. I'm like, oh yeah. you get all the knives you can handle.
I feel like this is going to
that sounded weird. I'm sorry.
It's good. After this movie, I think that whenever you go to Comic-Con and places like that, you're going to see a new group of cosplay stuff just based on this. Like,
I do think the zombies, especially, I thought the zombie effects were really good.
They were a little more subtle than a lot of different zombie things. Like, I kept thinking that these zombies felt more like something you'd see from like a necromancer than the traditional zombie. And you do have some mindlessness, but there's also something else going on, and that was kind of nice to add to this movie.
Yeah, these definitely aren't classic Romero zombies, at least 100%, because they will get to that point. And this is maybe one of my favorite things. Well, it kind of both. It was my favorite thing about the film and my least favorite thing about the film. My favorite thing about the film was the potential of where those zombies could have gone, because the lore that they set up in the very first scene, which they do a great job of introducing you to how these zombies work. Mr. Darcy comes to this whist party, and he comes into the room and he's like, one of you is a zombie. And everybody's like, excuse me, what? And he does he has this thing that he does where he's a zombie investigator, and it sounds cheesier than it is. He's still cool. Okay, don't worry. They didn't ruin Mr. Darcy. He's still awesome, Mr. Darcy, if you like Mr. Darcy. But up until a certain point when they actually consume human brains after they've been bitten, they are zombified, but they can hide it and they can act in a certain way. And I like that a lot. And there's even a plot point later where they talk about how that might possibly could be extended. But I will say one of the big problems I had with the movie was that they didn't do much with that idea. Once they throw it out there that they can be conscious and they can speak and everything. There's no, I always hate this too, because a lot of zombie shows maybe hint at a little bit. There's no moral question of, is it wrong to kill these people? Do they still have a soul? Are they still conscious? Nobody ever asks that question, Tony, and that bugged me quite a bit.
See, I just think that in those times you would have to be hard about it, and I don't think that's a question you can afford to ask. But they asked it a little bit more in this, like with the whole Church of St. Lazarus and all that. Like they actually showed it, because those girls were merciless.
But then it instantly turned into, but they're still evil for some reason that we haven't actually.
It's more that they were under the control of the one guy.
Yeah, sort of, I guess.
His intentions were not good, and that's where they became evil more than anything else. Because like you look at it, and like it's all the zombies in the church, like they're literally at a sermon. They're not doing anything insidious. Well, they're eating pig brain, but that's like
because they have to.
Yeah,
my point here is that if they can be reasoned with as actual conscious beings, why doesn't someone go and reason with them and say, man, do you think you could maybe have your zombie buddies not attack us? We'll give you all the pig brains you could eat, guys. We've got pig brains galore.
Especially don't need them. Faced with like complete annihilation.
Yeah, that's not an option in this movie. Nobody has that conversation. It's just
they actually had that conversation right
so it's a bad idea.
Yeah, like the bad guys suggested it, but they did have the conversation. It just got blown off. And exactly what he expected to have happen. So
they had the conversation, but it didn't count, Tony. It doesn't count if they don't do anything about it. It almost makes it worse, because then it's just like, well, you could be reasoning with some of these people, but you're not. You're actually, well, I'm not going to give away what happens at the end, but that it exacerbates how the movie ends a little bit in my mind. And I thought everything of this movie was great up until the end. And I felt like the ending turned away from Pride and Prejudice with zombies sprinkled in and decided to just be a zombie movie with the Pride and Prejudice characters. And it didn't work for me. The dramatic tension was completely gone, because it wasn't about Elizabeth and whether she's going to get together with Mr. Darcy, except in physically, if she can find him, it's about that. But it's not, they resolve all of the tension between them first, and then they're going to be like, oh, and by the way, she's going to go rescue. I would have liked it a lot if they kept some of that structure, but had her going after him in that place where they end up and yelling at him like, why did you not say this to me or do this? And him explaining it while they're being attacked or something, because that would have added more dramatic weight to what their sort of big zombie showdown finale thing. But I didn't think that ended up making it a bad movie.
Yeah, it was just a slight miscue more than like ruining anything. Did you stay for the credits? Like, did you see the mid-roll thing?
No, there's not a mid-roll thing, Tony.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
See this in the movie. You can get, as soon as the credits start, leave immediately, because I promise you, there's no mid-roll credit thing. Definitely is not there, and if it was there, no.
Yeah, it's I kind of had that feeling too, because like I liked part of the idea of it, but I was also like, hey, that doesn't really tie in with the story properly now. So just end it right whenever the movie goes. Just walk out of the theater.
It's so like, because they come back, even like you get past the giant zombie explosion of everything, and you're like, oh, for me anyway, didn't hit. It was just mindless action. But then they come back to, okay, now we're back in the drama. We're back in the fun Jane Austen stuff. It's back to Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy having, feelings for each other and finally kissing and whatnot in the pirate lady's castle. She was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, Lena Headey was.
Talk about her.
Lena Headey was great in this for the little part she had.
Yes, but they didn't do anything because there was no mid-credit scene at all.
If you want the movie to stay cohesive, just skip the mid-credit thing. I'm sure that it's probably just an idea to try to set it up for some sort of sequel, but
it's not okay.
Yeah, it was just out of place. I did want to see more from, like, they set up those 4 pallbearers, like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse thing. I wanted to see a little bit more with them. So if they do make a sequel, I'll be interested to see it. But I don't really think you can make a Jane Austen like sequel to Pride and Prejudice, like, and still keep the themes that were going on in there. I didn't read the book. Like I had a lot of it explained to me by people, but I hadn't actually read Pride and Prejudice. So I think a little bit of that was like untainted for me. Like it sounds like you read this a while ago.
I've seen several adaptions. I never actually got through the book, Tony. I'm not gonna lie. So that's, yeah. I'm not gonna pass myself off to some literati. Like, I've definitely read Jane Austen. I tried to read Northanger Abbey. I was like, I'm gonna get on Jane Austen. I'm gonna read Northanger Abbey. I picked up Northanger Abbey, and it was a book. I think I've told this story in the podcast before, but it was a book with footnotes in it. And I was like, well, I'm going to be smart and read the footnotes. And some dude was like, and when this happens at the end, it's, and back then I was like, I was not as chill about spoilers as I am now. I was like, why do I ever read this? Screw you, man. I wanted to find out what's happening. You just told me in the footnote. I don't care if it's 200 years old.
It's funny, our chat just exploded as we got into the conversation. I'm not seeing many questions, but it's funny seeing people's reactions like, Pirate Lady, what is going on? The Terminator's here? So
no, there is a Lena Headey from Game of Thrones shows up in this, and she is they show her, I guess she didn't get bit, but they show her fighting off a bunch of zombies. She's sort of, again, if we're going to do a sequel, the pieces are there to make a cool sequel, because she's supposedly a great warrior. She killed all these zombies. They show her.
You only get to see one real sequence with her where she's like killing zombies, and she's basically just on a pile of them screaming with a sword in her hand and her eye pulled out. And it's just like one of the most dramatic things you'll ever see. And I want that painting for my wall.
I want the painting of the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse trampling over Matt Smith as the devil. Oh, you were right about the 4 Horsemen, though, because that was, I didn't think about it until just now, but they build that up. She sees them. There's this big ominous thing. They go into the church. They have the masks on. Do nothing with it. I don't know if they do something with it in the book, because I haven't read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies because it looks cool.
Yeah,
I didn't actually
read it.
sit down and read.
It might be behind me right now. Who knows?
But it was one of those things where I'm like, why are we showing these cool guys in top hats? I thought it was building up to something. It built up to nothing. It builds up to nothing.
Yeah, I think that's about one of the only directions you could go with the sequel if they end up doing that. But there is no mid-roll, so there is no sequel.
Well, to be fair, if you actually have those guys in the battle, then it has to be the end of humanity, according to the prophecy. Because that was the prophecy, that they would be there for the end of days.
Or Wittick or whatever.
Well, I don't know if it's the end of days.
Yeah.
We had some kind of a happily ever after, so.
What was the one guy's name? Whitwick? Like, I'm trying to think.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
If you've seen, they take the main sort of scumbag guy from Pride and Prejudice and also make him the general of the zombie army, which is, again,
that's a little spoilery.
Yeah. It was one of those things that didn't really carry through with the dramatic tie-ins of the movie.
They also made it so that it was kind of like the love triangle situation, because he seemed more like the type of guy that would actually get with Elizabeth. Because the whole tension between Darcy and her and everything, he seemed more like the right fit. And then you start seeing different things of his character, and it just kind of builds from there.
Yeah. I will say I like that angle. I honestly cannot remember how that plays out in the original story, if she's into him or not. I know there's a whole stuff about Darcy leaving and kind of and their spats. Obviously, it's all about spats between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, but I don't remember exactly how the things played out with her and that soldier guy. But you are right; it did sort of add something there. I thought that she had good chemistry with almost everybody on screen. I mean, she's a great actress. Lily James plays this really well. Nobody's camping this up and not taking it seriously, and that I thought was the strength of it, because they played it like a straight period drama, but with zombies. Again, that aspect of it was really, really strong. But
our producer has a comment that I feel is merited for what just happened. He says, the love triangle is the entire point of Pride and Prejudice. That's the entire angle. That's it. That's all.
I'm sorry. I said I hadn't read the book, and I saw the BBC thing a long time ago. Stop making me feel bad. And as always is in the love triangle, one of the boyfriends is a douchebag. So, for real, not like pretend douchebag like Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, Mr. Darcy is just kind of a traumatized douchebag. Or
He is the perfect picture of Mr. Darcy. If you have seen any of the adaptations of Mr. Darcy, he's got that sort of brooding, wounded, I'm standoffish, but yet somehow I'm strangely attractive to women thing. And you do buy the chemistry between him and Miss Elizabeth. I felt like I could have had more of that. They definitely truncate the story quite a bit, and it's very, very much adapted, especially because you have to fit the zombie stuff in. But it really, I thought that more or less worked. There was enough there, and those two actors had the right kind of chemistry where even though you had some stuff between them cut out, it didn't matter because they sold it. They sold the relationship in a real way, and I like that.
Definitely. And like as far as the acting went, that was definitely a strong point in this movie. All the girls were fun to watch. Like that redhead was I don't know. Some of the sisters were not quite as useful as some of the other characters, but what's the main actress's name? Lily James?
Yeah, Lily James. Also Elizabeth Bennett.
Yes, the woman playing Elizabeth Bennett.
Guys.
But she was superb in this. Like I bought everything with her. Like she's been in like Downton Abbey and a bunch of other things, not to be confused with Downtown Abbey.
Not to be confused with Downtown Arby's.
Yes. It's an entirely different cheese sandwich right there.
Okay. Yes. But yes, I thought that all the acting was just on point and really, I mean, it was all well done. I liked all of that. Again, it did not hit a home run for me, but it got to second or third base. And I think that if you like Pride and Prejudice, especially, I would not be nervous about going into this because as weirdly enough, I think that this will appeal more to fans of Pride and Prejudice than it will to fans of zombies.
Yeah,
and
but
unfortunately, I think fans of zombies are going to be more the ones who go see it and be disappointed.
I think that a lot of people, though, like you could take this as pretty much the perfect Valentine's movie if you don't want to see a normal rom-com. Like if you're planning like a Valentine's date or something like that, this is a good movie to go to because you got your action with the zombies. You've got like all the beautiful people doing their beautiful people thing. You've got a little bit of kung fu movie going on, but at the core, you still have a really solid and entertaining love story. So the release of this couldn't have been better for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I mean, Deadpool obviously is the other classic Valentine's movie, so they're just going to duke it out. I was disappointed. My showing that I went to on Thursday was very, very sparsely populated. It was me and like 10 other people. They're watching, Elizabethan girls kick zombie butt. So
I'd say about half my theater was filled. Like,
oh yeah,
for a Thursday night for a movie that, like I said, I never even saw a TV spot for this. It's not that bad. Like I have a feeling it'll be a good weekend for it though.
I do, and it is really.
Sunday it's going to be dead because of the Super Bowl, so that might be a little bit rough on them.
This is not for the kind of people who want to go see the Super Bowl. Well, I don't know. I mean, you liked it, but they're not marketing to big brawny like, oh, my guy got across the line. That is not the person I think this is aimed at.
Lindsay's accusing you of letting this film get to third base on the first viewing.
It did. It
was thinking about rounding home, but it just couldn't quite sum up the courage.
It left me hanging, man.
So, I don't know how much more I have to say about this movie. I really like doing this as a live stream, though. Like these 0.5 episodes, it's good to just kind of get out there, get a little interaction while we're doing this. So, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Too, so, no, I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. You were right about the Valentine's thing. If you are looking for a nice mix of stuff, and I think it would be. I wish that I'd have my wife there to see this with me because I think that she would have really enjoyed it. And I think if you both are kind of into the premise then you're going to like this. If you didn't like the trailer, you're probably not going to like the movie. The trailer is very representative of what the movie is. And if you don't like Pride and Prejudice at all, and I'm saying if you've actually seen it and you're like, this is stupid, why? Then you probably also won't like this movie. But if you got on board with the trailer, mostly this movie delivers on what it promised. It doesn't drop the ball. Again, some things it could have done better, but great Valentine's date movie for people who don't want to go to your it's either that or The Choice, you guys, for a romantic movie.
Or Deadpool.
There are elements of romance in Deadpool from what I've heard. He does actually, it is about true love and him. Anyway, not a Deadpool review, and we haven't seen that, so.
And we might have a Deadpool review. Like, I don't know if we'll do a 0.5 for that. We're definitely doing a 0.5 for The Witch coming up in a few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, maybe another live stream too, Tony.
Yeah,
if we feel like this went well.
I think it did. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Like, just give us some feedback on this and let us know what you guys thought about it, either on Twitter at HE Podcast, on our Facebook page. You guys know where to get a hold of us. If you don't, go to humanechoes.com. There's more information there. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it.
You can also go down in the description and click on our stuff. You can get a t-shirt like the one I have. It's awesome with the Octo Shark on it. You should do that. Octo Shark's the best shark.
Yes, TeePublic. Look for Human Echoes or go to humanechoes.com and type in TeePublic. And I've got to run to the other side of the room to turn this off. So
I'll talk
see you guys
for
in
a minute.
second.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Tony's going to click the button that says goodbye. I think he's ready now. In a little bit, I'm going to keep talking. This is an experiment, you guys. We'll catch you later.